Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune, and today on Epic 7, we're going over the Advent. Exciting stuff. But before that, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Catch me at Twitch, Wild Neptune, playing a plethora of games, including Epic 7. So, if you want more action like this, be sure to check it out. Thank you again for all the recent support. So, let's get started. Okay, these are the teams that I'm using for auto mode on Hell difficulty. The team that you see for the first fight will be different. I try to make a point to make a 3-team that used no ML5 stars and where the limited units were replaceable. So instead of Luna, you can use really any defense break water unit in the game. So Furious, Clarissa, right? Karen works too. As long as they have the defense break and their water unit, it should be perfectly fine. Otherwise, this is the set of units that I use. Again, the first team is going to be different. I will talk about the strategy that I use for each fight, and later on, I'll go over Epic Hell and the units. I can't really show you the Epic Hell fights because I already did them, and I can't show you them again. And quite honestly, gearing and regearing for them was, well, Epic Hell, and don't really want to do that again. So, but we'll go over the mechanics of the bosses and all of that. But worth noting that go to boss guide here and see all the stages of the boss. Also in Epic Hell, he does have these buffs on, which is Swift Mana and Counterattack Mana, and there are conditions you have to meet in the first and second stages to dispel these, which we will talk about as we go through each fight. And then he just has his basic skills that do damage, and he has this very annoying Pyrokinesis effect, which we will talk about a lot because it sucks a lot. In Epic Hell mode, he has a chance to counterattack you after being attacked twice, and it keeps going up and up. So even if you get rid of the counterattack buff, he will still counter you. So you have to make sure that you are healthy enough where you can survive maybe a hit or two from him. Alright, so at the beginning of every stage, the boss will always take a turn, no matter what. So it doesn't matter how fast you are, the boss just has initiative on whatever. So, because I can't show you because I already did it, in Epic Hell, the first and second stage have conditions that if you want to get rid of a buff that the boss has, you have to do a couple of things. So in the first stage here, the condition you have to meet is very simple. All you have to do is hit this turtle 4 times while the turtle is debuffed. The attack where you debuff him counts. So if he's not debuffed, and say you attack with Sigrid, which is who I use for my debuffer for this, that will count as 1 attack. And it doesn't have to be all in one cycle. So you can do like 2 hits on your first go around, and then 2 hits on the second one, right? Which is very nice. Another thing you have to take into account, though, is that the turtle will transfer debuffs onto whoever it hits. It is, of course, subject to ER. I believe, I'm not positive about how much ER you need for the turtle. I know, though, that in Epic Hell, the boss ignores ER, which is kind of bad, but other mobs do not. And typically, it's understood that 200 ER is the number you want to have. So I'm going to guess that you want 200 ER too for the turtle, because in Epic Hell mode, the turtle will stun you, and in normal hell and in hard mode, he only attacks downs, which is a lot easier to deal with than stun. But make sure that you don't defense break the turtle, unless you're running an ER team. Otherwise, the turtle will just transfer the ER back to you. I mean, the defense break back to you and ruin your day. So, won't be that exciting for you. But right here, we're just gonna pop this on auto and watch it go. You see here that every time you hit the boss, he gets a buff. So the more times you hit it, the faster and stronger he gets. On top of that, he gets a 0 boost too every time you hit him. So keep that in mind. If you do this on auto mode, and I mean on epic hell mode, and you're manual, use the turtle to for your soul reaver attacks, right? Let's say you don't need to heal and just want to do something else instead. You can use like your Momo S1 on the turtle. The turtle also, you probably need 85 effectiveness, I would say, for epic hell to consistently land debuffs on the turtle. Okay, so we're at the second team, and in this phase, in epic hell mode, it is one of the most infuriating things ever. Oh my god. So, the condition for this phase, if you want to clear the buff for the third phase, and the buff is every time the boss is attacked, he counterattacks. So, if you don't want that to happen to you, you do have to hit the boss 7 times with a unit that has 2 buffs. At least 2 buffs. Which doesn't sound that bad. However, there's a problem. Because these effers, what they do is that if they're buffed and an ally's attacked, they have a 30%, or at least it says 30%, chance to counterattack. It feels more like 100% to me. 100, like, can it go over 100%? I don't know. But anyway, if they counterattack on epic hell mode, they have a chance, or any attack actually, they have a chance to steal a buff, which is insane. So you have a buff because you need buffs, right, to fill the condition here. However, on epic hell, the buffs work against you sometimes. So that's not good. So every what do you call it? Difficulty. The other mechanic you have to do is that if both of them are buffed, then he gets a super buff, which you don't want him to have. Kane's Vigor. So, increases the crit chance by 30% and his speed by 20%. Other than that though, the hell mode difficulty is a lot easier. And you will see why as we just go through this here. And you'll see why Carrot is just really good, because especially with Violin, if she strips here, and see that buff is already gone, so to deal with that already. He sees Zerato, he's going in, he's landing all of his debuffs, very nice there. This takes a little bit, but this is a very safe team overall. Oh, also, he also cleanses, too, on their first move. Also, if you miss them, they will automatically trigger one of their abilities, which cleanses 2 debuffs on a target. So, you don't want to miss them, right? That's not good. But we're already at the, close to the marker already. So, here we go. Stage change. The final stage of Hell difficulty. And see here that the boss did take his turn and did land these wonderful debuffs on me. So, in Epic Hell, the only real change is that he ignores ER. So, You can't run ER strats, but you can run ER strats on normal hell difficulty and on hard mode. But otherwise, largely the same fight. So on this team, on auto, A-Lots will always S3 first, so we will do that. Then Luna will S3. Then Sigrid will S3. And luckily, Sigrid resisted, so that is very nice. Then A-Lots will come in and will S2 the Sigrid. And she will S2 and kill the boss. So you'll notice that the Sigrid got to take her second turn before Luna did. So it's important to have your speed tuning if you use a team like this, where the Luna only takes one turn. So we will just use the good old S2 and pop, and there it is. So worth noting too, the only molas my Sigrid has is S3 and S2 to cooldown, I believe. So nothing in the S1, so she could definitely do even more damage there. But that is basically the auto team that I'm using for hell difficulty. And if you wonder about my gear and other choices, here we are. Here is the Ravi. She's plus 15 because I use her a lot. This is the gear I use for the auto run. I am also running Holiday Fiend's Artifact for some bonus effectiveness. You can run another effectiveness artifact if you have one, or just give her a little bit of effectiveness if you really want to land those S3 stuns. Remember that she gets a effectiveness boost with her passive, so just need that much extra, just a little bit, to help her go along. The Carmen Rose is running this, so this is just basically very similar to what I'm running on her for Light Expo. This artifact, it is Ram's artifact from the collab. If you don't have it, just run another damage artifact or maybe a mitigation artifact. Here is the Momo. So, this is the Momo I used. 200 ER just to be safe. And the rest of the stats, you know, not the greatest, right? This is kind of spare gear, but it is good enough for the fight. Start with Tamarin here. And again, over 200 ER just to be safe. But see here, some 217 speed is okay. About 15-15 average for health and defense. Not the highest, but good enough to get by. And just a healing artifact. This rod is perfectly serviceable. The Cesarado is running Violin on Lifesteal. He is very squishy, but so you'll be a little bit tankier and you can not run Lifesteal. I like running this though, as he can add a tiny bit of damage too. So, you know, this is decent enough. And I understand Cesarado is an ML4 star, so if you don't have him, you can replace him with another mage. Like, as much as I hate to say this, like Icerado, but there it is. But one unit that everybody should have, or at least will have access to, is going to be Carrot. And this is very similar to my PvP build. I just added a little more effectiveness so that she can get those strips and hit those burns for the damage. She's of course also running Violin, so there is double Violin to make sure that there are no buffs at all when you do it in auto mode. So that's how that goes. And finally, we have the third team, which is the A-Lots, Luna, plus Sigrid. Here is the A-Lots. So the speed, 266, is important, as this means that A-Lots will S3, And remember, this is also contingent on how many turns that the boss took before you got to his stage, for the final stage. So hit the boss a lot of the times, you might need even more speed. So unfortunately, 266 might not always be fast enough to outspeed the boss in the third stage. So I don't know what the calculations are, how much speed you need per a stack, but do keep that in mind. So you might need more or less depending on how quickly you beat each stage. But for me, what this does, it allows him to take 2 turns before the boss takes 1, well, after his initial turn, of course. And this is just because my Sigrid is missing a little bit of crit chance for the fight, so we're just having this just as a little backup there. The Luna is a little bit slower. It doesn't really matter who goes first, the Luna or the Alots. But she's on this ult key here to put bonus hit chance. You know, just a little bit of insurance, just in case too many of those debuffs land. And believe me, they still land. She still missed sometimes, even with this on. So it's not a 100%, you know, put this on and you're good. No. Effectiveness here, just to land the defense break. Her other stats don't really matter that much, but... Oh, also 100% crit chance is important too, as I told you before, that if you miss the boss, or non-crit, the boss will cleanse debuffs, which is not good. And finally, it is Sigrid. So she's on a rage set. It is a very bad rage set, though. It is a rage set that's for Alexa for Wyron. So it has the effectiveness on it, which it doesn't need. But... And you want it to... And she can't be base speed. She has to be fast enough where she takes her turn before the boss goes his second time. And hopefully before your secondary defense break goes too. So that is why she's at this speed in particular for me. Alright, so now I have some screenshots of the gear and units I use for Epic Hell. I understand that these teams are going to be a little bit harder to replicate as they do use more limited and MO 5 stars and stuff. But here they are. A Momo here. It is the same A Momo that we use on the auto mode for Hell difficulty. So the exact same stats work just fine. The second unit was ML Ken, and ML Ken makes the first stage way too easy. He does have to be in lifesteal, I think, if you want to do it, as he will be taking a lot of damage from the attacks, and, well, the boss will always crit you, no matter what, and you'll get a huge counterattack damage. Really, it only takes like 4 or 5 counterattacks, and it's over. So, that's what I used here. Now, if you don't have MLK, you can actually get by. I used the Ravi, Carmen Rose plus Tamarin team for the first stage. It took a long time to do, but it was generally pretty stable. But, of course, you still have to meet that requirement for landing those debuffs on the ad and hitting it 4 times, and that's where Secret comes in, just to S1 the ad, right, and get those debuffs going. So the effectiveness here is at 71, which is actually a little bit lower than she needs, but, you know, also, she's on Proof of Valor, just so that she has a little bit of survivability here, and she doesn't really need anything else. So that is for the first phase. For the second phase, DN is our buffer for she's best in slot. If you want to actually do the hit the boss 7 times with 2 buffs on. So that's why she's like that. This is just her PvP build I have on her. So this is just the same build I use in other content. The second unit was Luluka, and this is the final build I settled on. I did use other ones that were slower, more damage, and each of them have their benefits. The high damage build will allow you to kill the crystals a little bit faster, and maybe they'll get their turns, and they won't cleanse the boss that way. But, of course, you cycle less, and you get less violin procs. There's a lot of RNG here, though, as violin is only 70%, if I recall correctly. And Luluka doesn't have a strip on any of her abilities. So maybe actually use something like Caesarado would have been better than Luluka. Not really sure about that, but eventually this is what worked for me. It did take a long time, a few tries though, so not the most consistent, just what I used. And I used Milim for my DPS. And what I did here is I would make it so that when I had 2 buffs on, like the end's 3-turn attack and whatever, and anti-crit buff, I could end a defense break. I could soul burn Milim S1 multiple times into the S3. And it would, well, not only do a lot of damage to the boss, but it would continue to add to my counter of hit it 7 times with 2 buffs. On top of that, the evasion buff is also pretty nice, as sometimes she just dodges the counterattacks and stuff like that. Although occasionally, too, the evasion buff gets stolen, and that's pretty bad, I have to say. And the final stage, we used Emilia. So, in the final stage, you have to basically cleanse off the debuffs right away. So that's what I used. So Emilia S3 right off. Karen ended up being my defense break. Originally, I used Cerise with Miss Confi, but it was a little bit too inconsistent, as Miss Confi only has a 30% defense break chance, I think. But I use this Karen here for the defense break. And Luna, in this case, was my burst damage dealer. You can replace Luna, though, with any burst damage dealer. Luna is probably the best one, though, for the team. I actually slowed her down because you have to make sure that she's slower than the Karen, so that the Karen defense breaks, and then the Luna goes. And that's going to be it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you could follow everything that was going on. I know that this boss is a lot harder than a lot of the other content that there is. If you can't do Epic Hell mode, don't worry. There's always going to be another Advent boss eventually. This one took a long time to actually get to us, unfortunately. But, you know, you'll get stronger. Keep playing. Keep grinding. Keep becoming even more powerful in Epic 7. This is content that is tuned for higher geared players. So if you're newer, don't sweat it, right? But it is 2 weeks long, and in 2 weeks, who knows? Maybe you can get to be able to do, you know, if you can only do hard mode, that's fine. That's perfectly okay, right? Depending on where you are in the game, don't worry about it. Anyway, though, I am Wild Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.